A bit of a report on the state of Carelinks in Canada. As Steve was pointing out earlier, there are trustees, and they really are around the globe. A number of them are registered charities in the country. There's Carelinks in New Zealand, Australia, the UK, US, and here now in Canada as well. And I want to commend Steve and Connie Keating, who for many years held the banner for Carelinks Canada. And I give you a hand because really good job. You did take it up as the first people in Canada willing to help the outreach get extended, and they were the means by which funds could be collected and transferred to the good pastoral and preaching work that was being done. Then, as they wanted to move on, and we were requested if Ann and I would be willing to take it over. We had come to know Duncan, having spent a few winters in a few Decembers anyway in Riga. And we were willing to do it. We were newly retired and had the time and energy and enthusiasm. And we liked what we were seeing. We had read the Carelinks for several years, and certainly one of the most dynamic preaching missions in the world. And certainly we liked that as opposed to trying to just preach locally, which we had been doing for years as well, we liked that we were also trying to be a component of a preaching mechanism that would reach into other parts of the world, especially to poor people, especially where we don't have developed ecclesias, because we don't really want to limit it to only where we are or only the affluent. We want to reach the poor people, especially the poor, the indigent. And Carelinks does do that, probably as effectively as any, maybe perhaps arguably more so than any other charity out there. It's been very effective. We decided we would get involved, and if we liked it, we'd get more involved, and if we didn't like it, we'd just back away. And we've been very involved since. We've been to Riga on 4 different occasions for anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks at a time. It's been a moving experience. It certainly has contributed to our own spiritual growth in many, many ways. And we still try to contribute in other areas. We work with Martin Webster and Lois in St. Lucia, and try to work within our own ecclesia to try to help advance the gospel message and try to expand the presence of Carelinks in Canada. Certainly many, many dedicated, sincere brethren in Canada who recognize often they have a strong desire to help and to be a contributor to a positive preaching program, but recognize that for circumstances often beyond their control, time, circumstances, job, money or whatever, they can't do it themselves. Sometimes they're elderly and the physical impairment prevents it. Other times jobs or family prevent it. Sometimes the people they have to take care of are their older parents, not their children. So not everybody can be out there, but a lot of people still contribute in the way they can. We've had a great support financially, and in order to expedite that, we did start with the Royal Bank a Carelinks account in Canada, which has helped a lot, because prior to that the money would be shipped overseas and it would take a great deal of time to process. A good deal of preaching materials have been made available here in Canada, and a lot of them you're already familiar with. I'm going to show you a few. Most of them are all on the table in the back, and I hope you get a chance before you leave today to take a look at it. I know that you're already familiar with the NEVs, and in this case, this is pretty much how we send them out when people request them online. We tuck in the 3-part reading schedule that we use in Christadelphia, which matches with the page numbers or the chapters that identify the day that it gets read. That helps simplify it for them. We tuck in this, what I call the Hope and Purpose brochure. There's a large number of those available in the back, and feel free to pick up a pack of those and take them home. They are a very small leaflet. An ecclesia could have a campaign day and just stand on corners in downtown or anywhere they want to and just hand them out. You don't even have to engage in long, lengthy conversations. You'd be amazed. I think typically around 70–80% of people take them, because it's easier to do that even if they don't want to be bothered than say no. But we tuck it in because it has the most basic knowledge, especially if you're trying to talk to someone who's a secular person. It has the most fundamental message of, we are sinners, we need redemption, Otherwise we will perish, and God in his grace and mercy provided us Jesus Christ. That's the message of this little leaflet. And if you want to know more on how we can help so that you can repent and be baptized, give us a call. They have a blank space in the back. You can type your own information, or get a stamp and stamp your ecclesial information, or whatever you choose. Another brochure that we produced a few years ago, this one will deal with the doctrines more. It has 10 Bible questions with 10 Bible answers for persons that might be in another church but disenchanted because they don't believe in the Trinity or the devil or something like that. It's another possible way to engage them. Recently, the past winter, many of you might have seen this, and a number of ecclesias have purchased these in large volume because they use them as an outreach program. And it's, when will Jesus return to the earth? And for a lot of people, that's an important question. Even Catholics who know the Our Father, they know that thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Decades ago when I was a Catholic, every Sunday at church they say Jesus has come, Jesus will return again. Even in that denomination, it's a common understanding. But a lot of people don't really understand that because they think of heaven going as the reward. This really shows how the Bible is teaching what we teach, that God is going to complete his plan. Everything he set out to do in those first 2 chapters of Genesis is going to be fulfilled in the last 2 chapters of Revelation. The whole Bible is right there, and everything in between is man rebelled and God fixed it. That's what people get to see, and that's why, as Duncan was mentioning, the truth as we know it and understand it and preach it is the strength that we have. We don't want to dilute it. We want to impress people with it because they can see how it all fits with everything that they see around them. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Introducing Bible Basics, which was sort of a brief book to the more elaborate, full version of Bible Basics. These are often requested online. And it's interesting because people are just searching them out, and you may not hear about it sometimes from them for a while, but after a while we also send them out with answering sheets, and some people do send them back. And then we fill them out and we correct it and explain the areas that they might have had trouble, and you do get a response from that. And so there are a lot of people that even you really don't see it day to day, but they're out there, they're reading their Bibles that we've sent them, or they're reading Bible Basics, and they are studying. There is a concern in their heart. There's a sense in all mankind that we are facing death, and a desire to know, look, if God's holding out something more for me, I want to be a part of it. And often religions have disenchanted people, and so they want to come to us on their terms. So if it's by coming online and requesting a book, whereas we're not in their face, but we're offering the information, they can come to it on their own terms. These are very helpful, and we do get quite a few requests, as I was mentioning earlier, about 70 so far. A little over 70, and so it's people who are interested. I'm not sure there's not a few people out there just running on the internet, see what they can get for free. And maybe they get a Bible from us and they sell it for $5 at a yard sale next year. But you know what? Whoever buys that for $5 is probably going to read it. So no matter how it gets out there, the Word of God is getting out there, and we're doing the best that we can figure out to do thus far to try to have that happen. And if they get this Bible, and they read it, and they see the commentary, they're going to start to come to an understanding. It's a readable contemporary version. It's got the commentary to help them understand what they're reading, which is what you hear most people say, I tried reading the Bible, it was too hard. It gives them an opportunity to do it. It gives them a resource, a return address where they can say, I want to know more, or I want to ask about this. I want to say again about this book. It's really quite inspirational. I hope some of you had a chance during the lunch hour to take a look at it. And these are for sale for cash, $20, and all the money will be used to promote the Carelinks gospel preaching efforts. These other books, there's a few on the table there. I didn't bring a massive inventory for massive distribution, but if you only want a book or two, I'd be happy to just have you take one home. If you do want a larger quantity, we provide them at no cost if they can't be afforded. And if you can afford it, or your ecclesia can afford it, of course, we would like you to try to cover the cost because they're not free. But this Bible actually in production in Canadian dollars is about $6. But when we mail it to someone, it's $16 more. So now it's $20, $25 to get it somewhere between Nova Scotia and British Columbia. But we do mail them out, and we do get some positive responses, and we're prayerful that the literature we send out is finding hearts of people that are searching. So there is a great deal of material, and some of these we have large quantities of, some not so much, but they can be made up. That we have all the artwork and we can make them very readily at reasonable costs. And if you check with me directly, you can get pricing if you need it. And again, if you can't afford it, but you want to use it, we will make it available to you. That's what we use our funding for, to try to help assist your own personal or collective ecclesial preaching efforts. The goal that we all have is we want people to know Jesus Christ. People are dying. People are perishing. And as ambassadors for Christ, we're trying to save them from doing that. And we need to help them find their way. And we want to let ourselves be the vessel for that Holy Spirit to get that message out there, to let people know Christ, as we have been so privileged to know Christ. One other piece of artwork that was recently done, this was, Duncan had these made up by a graphic artist here in Canada, and it's Get a Free Bible. And he published this in, what was the newspaper?
Daily Mail.
The Daily Mail, and over 1,000 responses. Can you imagine?
That's in the UK.
Yeah, sorry. But it's it basically just says, get a free Bible, Old and New Testaments, NEV translation with brief commentary explaining the Bible's basic message. We'll help provide you this artwork if you want, and we'll put your information on it if you care to run an ad in your local ecclesia, or use your own personal name on it. However you choose is fine. As Duncan was saying, he prayed to the Lord to just, let me meet somebody today. I think all of us would be delighted to find someone who says, would you teach me what you know about Jesus Christ? I want to feel the hope that I see in your eyes. But the problem we have is that we don't have that person in front of us. These are ways we can put those people in front of us and share the joy that we have and be that ambassador for Christ. Now, there's a couple other examples of the same ad. One is in Italian. I'm not sure I know which one's which. The other one's actually in Spanish. But they're for special efforts that are being made in Italy and Spain. And on the back is the English copy. They're back to back. And they're just used as leaflets, handouts, to be given out on the street so that people can get them. Or they could be also published in a newspaper. So there are a lot of good preaching efforts being done around the world, but also right here in Canada. We are reaching to people that are our neighbors, that we don't know and probably won't come into contact with either. We've also been able to, in order to try to polish our image, we've been able to make a little bit of artwork for letterheads and envelopes and things to, when we do have correspondence with people, just to show them the legitimacy of our efforts and professionalism as much as we can produce that. Yes, Connie?
I was just wondering, is there any production plans for the French Bible Basics and NEV Bibles? As you know, we recently ran into an issue with there's a huge population in Canada. You cannot reach with English.
There is an example of the French New Testament Bible on the table back there. I only have one left. I've shipped some out.
Yeah.
And there's also a French Bible Basics back there. I don't know what the inventory is on them. I'm about out.
Yeah, we have some in the UK.
Yeah, so probably more can be sent. I don't think, you don't have a full Bible in French, do you?
No, as PDF, yes.
As a PDF, so they can download it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I recognize the need, and we're constantly up against the finances. I mean, there's a lot of things we want to do, but finances dictate that, Martin.
Box of Bible Basics in French went to Montreal a few weeks ago. There's 2 boxes here. I think the other one's going up to Michael soon.
Oh, good.
They're up there.
Now, if you bear with me a second, I want to put up a spreadsheet to show you what we've been doing with Carelinks Canada. That's not what I want. As I mentioned earlier, my wife and I, we took over around September 2016, so here's a bit of a financial report for 2017 and 2018. And as you can see, the donations were just about $8,000 in 2017. This is Canadian only. And in 2018, we're only through the halfway mark. We're up around $5,000. So we've had really very good growing financial support. And for all those who have contributed, we are very, very grateful because you enable us to go out and to achieve the goals that we aspire to. Some money, and this came up earlier with Steve's presentation, some money is earmarked. People have specific ambitions for it, and you can see a few of them here. The Riga Bible Center is generally comes up fairly often. People like the idea of helping homeless people eat. It is a project that has been profoundly successful. I remember a year ago, December, we were there, and 13 people in 1 month were baptized. And consistently, there are always a number of people coming up who have been listening to these talks, sometimes for a year or two, and they've changed. It has changed them. Now, you might wonder, well, that's a pretty high performance number, but you realize, too, these are not people that were indoctrinated along the way or even been burned by another religion. They're Russian-speaking people, now kind of disassociated with their heritage, country of heritage, and they're in Latvia. And they didn't grow up with a religion, and they don't have any hope in the world. But Christ does give them a hope that they wouldn't have either otherwise. And that changes them. And it makes them seek that hope. And that's why the gospel is so alluring to the poor, as Christ would often say. So the Riga Bible Center, we had 1,800 last year and already 1,500 this year. The EE Bible School is the Eastern European Bible School. And this is a good example of people who, in scattered parts of Eastern Europe, are baptized and in isolation. No real ecclesias anywhere near them, but it's once a year you do that school, right? The school is put together in Ukraine. We often need funding to get them there because they don't have the funds to provide that transportation. And we gathered that school together, and as you can see, last year we had $1,700 in donations to support that, which was terrific because it really does provide for these people, and for many of them that is their only single fellowship they get all year long, to come together and to be able to build on each other's spirituality and to have a fellowship that is otherwise completely denied them. But they want to come, and they go over hill and dale, sometimes traveling more than one day to get there because it means that much to them, something that we could virtually take for granted, which is kind of sad in a way, but anything you have in abundance, we all as humans just have a tendency to take things for granted. But these people so crave it. And so it's so valuable to be able to provide that service. And as Steve was saying, if the money's earmarked that way, we keep a track of it that way, and it goes in that direction, to that funding. The NAV publication, it's a great book. This is just the cost of producing it, but this was in response to a call to have more produced and help assuage the cost of it. So we had $422 for that. And the Christadelphian Advancement Trust, these were donations made specifically to the Christadelphian Advancement Trust, another $350. And then you see corresponding this year, we're seeing also good general fund donations already of over $3,000, Bible Center $1,500. There hasn't been a request for funding yet for the Eastern European Bible School or NEV again, so there wasn't any donations for that, and the Advancement Trust. But what I really want you to see here is that we do earmark this money, and we try to forward it in the direction that people want. It's obviously a little easier when it goes into the general fund because it allows us a little more discretion on using it as we need. But we do respect the donor's right to say, I want to give you the money, and if it's at all possible, they want it to go that way, we try to make sure it doesn't. And as Steve said, if we can't do it, we would talk to them about it. We wouldn't take the money and do anything otherwise. And if we knew we couldn't use it or didn't need it, we would tell them that too and see if there's a possibility of redirecting the money to a greater cause. And of course there's some expenses, but as Steve said, most people who are involved with this are working out of their homes, as does myself and my wife. So there's no real building expenses, there's no payroll. We eliminate most of that. You do have some, here you see advertising, some auto, bank charges, office supplies, lots of mails, envelopes, paper, stamps, and postage are are through the roof. The Bible Center, you see there, that was money I spent while I was there, which is why it's a small amount. I did forward a lump sum later, and I'll show you that at the bottom of the spreadsheet. And other miscellaneous missionary expenses and some travel. You see most of it is in 2017 and a little bit more in 2018. So the expenses aren't very high by comparison because these are expenses for the most part I either spent personally while I was in Riga or it was spent here in Canada on the expenses of just running the charity such as it is. And so last year we had a balance of $6,000 if you subtract the expenses from the income. And that looked pretty good because we hadn't transferred any money. And I was trying to transfer the money in late November, and I was in constant contact with Steve about that. And it was difficult because I had gone to Riga, and it got even more complicated because it didn't look right when you're trying to do it from Riga to send money out of a bank. The bank gets really suspicious. It's like, who's this guy in Latvia trying to take money out of this account? So I decided I'll wait till I get back, which wasn't until January. So you see at the bottom, there's in 2018 there was a dispersion. $4,400 was given to CAT because CAT pays for the actual.
Can't see.
Oh,
You've got a slide down.
thank you. Sorry. I can see it fine on the paper. CAT pays literally for the publishing up front. Also, the building in Riga there's a lot of physical expenses to it. And I know that the romantic thing is to give your money so that you feel that money goes into that person's stomach. But the reality is there's a very expensive building there. I'm going to give you a bit of a slideshow later to show you that. And it's expensive to have it there. You have to pay for heating. You have to pay for electricity. You have to pay for the taxes on the building. It's not romantic to donate money to pay for taxes. But if those things aren't purchased, we can't feed these people. It's just not possible. We can't give them coffee and tea and let them warm up. We can't have them sit there for an hour and listen to a Bible talk. It's just as fundamental as buying carrots and potatoes. So, but we do, again, we try to earmark the money the way it's supposed to go. Some of it is for food that we get, and usually when I'm there, I'll just, myself, the first couple days I'm there, I'm buying food on that card for that, with the money that we will receive from Canada. So it gives you an idea of the money, the income. It's not a huge charity, but it is a charity that's been growing in support, and it's been growing in success. It does reach more people. It does bring people to Christ. I think people that you will meet in the kingdom. Maybe never before, but I hope that one day we all get to walk up to someone that we didn't know we helped. But we knew what we wanted to do, and we took faith that Christ would be known to these people, and that they would receive him in their heart as we do ours, and that it makes a difference. We did apply to the Canada Revenue Agency for registered charity status. As Peter noted, they seem a lot more finicky than they did years ago when Ann and I, who by the way, were baptized in isolation, nobody around for hours and hours. And we ran a business that ran from April to November, so we could only come to Toronto maybe 4, 5, 6 times a year in the winter. Being baptized in isolation is not a death sentence. It's far from ideal, I'll grant. But if a person has it in their heart and they're sincere, they believe in Jesus Christ and understand and recognize their need for baptism, they will hold true. And if we, who baptize them, try to do the best we can with whatever the circumstances provide, to do the follow-up, to stay in communication, to encourage them and help them and provide opportunities for them to find fellowship, let the Lord do his work, knowing we've done the best we could with what he gave us to work with, and trust that the person will also take their responsibility to live their life so that they can answer to Christ. If they have less to start with, maybe less will be expected of them. Maybe they're just doing the best they can, and they wouldn't measure up to some other people we may know. But we've got to give them every chance we can. We need to get the message out there and get Christ in their heart if it can be received. So I got off on a tangent, and I apologize for that. The CRA, we were denied our application. We first applied in July 6, 2017, and we received a letter of denial when we just got back from Riga on January 10th this year. We appealed that decision. on March 5th. And the basic problem on the denial, as you've heard Steve talk about, they get very concerned about once you get the money, and they say, okay, we'll give you the charity status, but we want to make sure you control that money. Well, if you're shipping the money overseas, how do you maintain that control? And you have to prove to them you have a means of controlling it within the mandate of why they gave you that status. It's difficult to do. It's not unusual to be denied and have to appeal. I heard of another Christadelphian charity that took 3 years. I don't know if we can bring it to fruition. We will try to, if we possibly can. It's not easy. It's a lot of work and paperwork and red tape, and but I think it's worthwhile. It certainly builds credibility because for everybody who has an interest in donating, they get to see that, well, now you have a third party, an objective third party, the government, overseeing the money coming in, the money going out, and seeing that it's being used responsibly. So I want it for that reason alone, so that it has that sense of credibility, that people feel that there's some oversight beyond just a few individuals who are intimate to the money and nobody else knowing. It also, of course, helps other people because for a lot of people, if they have a tax deduction from it, it might increase their ability to contribute because they can get a refund or a reduction in their taxes. So there's definite, advantages to it, and for that reason we are pursuing it. We'll try to pursue it to a reasonable end, and if we can obtain that, we will. It's hard to say because, like I said, it's hard to prove your level of control or to be able to satisfy them, but we think we have provided the paperwork and the mechanisms to show that we can do that, and time will tell whether it's been sufficient or not. I know we've had a number of people ask us about it. We certainly see the value in it. We certainly agree that it would be a good idea, and so we're pursuing it as best we can. We do have a few future directions that we want to go. I'd like to put up a website in addition to the one that Duncan maintains, Carelinks.net, but also one specific for Carelinks Canada to not only show the activities that are going on, the funding that's been raised, the projects that we're working on, the people or the amount of contacts that we're dealing with, as well as any national efforts that we might make if they come down to running an ad for a free Bible or something like that. And to just generally keep people updated so that they can feel more in touch with what's going on and identify with the organization as a preaching campaign to get the gospel message out there to people. Whether we can get to doing national ads or something probably will depend on whether the funding is sufficient to do that. But those are some of the hopes and objectives that we have that lying ahead. In the meantime, we try to do the best we can with what we have to work with. Today's conference was the first one we've had in Canada, at least the first one I know of, and we felt the responsibility. We've had a lot of good support. The support has been growing, and we feel, well, certainly there's a need to report back to the people who have been interested and been helpful and supportive to show them how the funding is working, how the word is getting out there, and how it is achieving the purpose of those donations. And so we will be providing you with people with first-hand accounts, people who have been in the field and worked there and done the work with it, and provide you with their own personal account or their first-hand account. And that's certainly better than any gossip or hearsay. Just people standing there in front of you saying, I went here, I did this, and this is the result. One of them is not live. It'll be Peter Ventresca, who unfortunately, due to the nature of his business, could not come today. But Duncan was able to make a video of him and interview him, and you'll be able to see that video. I think it's following my presentation. So I think that's the status of Carelinks Canada. We have done, we do an ongoing amount of online mailings from the online requests. My wife and I just did a gospel sing-along at a bluegrass festival, and I have a few pictures, and I hesitate to show it because I feel like I'm blowing my own horn, but I really want to show it because it's just, it's a good example of how you can, for no real investment, reach a lot of people and get a message out there. I just want to show you a quick couple of pictures. Bear with me a second. That didn't work. This was just a few weeks ago at the Lombardy Bluegrass Festival. It's actually the EOBF, which is Eastern Ontario Bluegrass Festival in Lombardy, Ontario. And that's Ann and myself on the stage. We play guitars. And there was about 60 people in attendance. We handed out all the music to them, the words to the music. Now, we didn't use Christadelphian hymns because they wouldn't typically know them, but there's a lot of traditional gospel music that these people relate to. It tends to be an older crowd anyway. And we do this show for free for the organizers, who normally pay professional groups a good deal of money to come and do it. But we do it because my only condition is, but I want to preach. I want to actually give them a message, and not some fluffy thing about, hang in there, we'll all be in heaven soon, but to tell them and explain the real truth of the Bible. And Martin, goodbye. I want to say goodbye to you too, because these two people have been our hosts for the past couple of days. And I got to tell you, if you ever stay at someone's house, they get 5 stars on Yelp. They are the best hosts.
So I'm going to visit somebody in the ICU in Hamilton. So.
I know you have other commitments today. Thank you so much for coming. Good to see you guys. God bless. So, in any case, I just want to share this with you because this is the second year we got to do it. The organizers were pretty pleased with it. And the songs we did were like Amazing Grace and How Great Thou Art, In the Garden. These are classic songs that are considered gospel music. They liked them. And every 2 songs, I could stop and give them about a 5-minute talk. Some years ago, we tried this at another bluegrass festival. I gave them 2 songs and a 15-minute talk. 2 more songs and another 15-minute talk. And I didn't realize how much patience Christadelphians have for that kind of thing compared to the rest of the people in the world. And I realized, they felt there was a little too much yakking, not enough singing. So we modified it because we had been to another festival one time. We had the opportunity to see their gospel show. And that was more modeled about, every couple songs you give them about 5 minutes. It's a digestible amount for them. But we were able to give them that same basic message like in the leaflets of, we have a problem, we're sinners. We need to be saved or we'll perish. And Christ in His grace provided that through Christ. God through His grace provided that through Jesus Christ if we repent, if we get baptized and walk faithfully. And it's the most fundamental message. People are not offended by that message. They sit in the audience and they nod their head yes. They stand and sing happy with smiles on their faces. And at the end, we had a table. I'm just going to go through the pictures because being between the laptop and the mic is not very convenient. There's a close-up of yours truly and the lovely bride. There's the table, similar to our banners that you see here. And a big poster behind Ann's head saying free Bibles. We didn't give quite as many Bibles away this year, but you see they're all loaded up. They've got the reading schedules. They've got that Hope and Purpose leaflet tucked into them. And we didn't quite give as many Bibles away this year because a lot of people were there last year, the same people. But many came up and said, "Wait, we got one from you last year. We really liked it. It's very readable, and they liked the commentary." So people seem to receive these quite well. And it was quite nice that way. We actually put the donation can out, and we picked up $40, just people wanting to put money into it. And we only put it out because a lot of times they feel awkward about taking it free from you, and they want to give you money. And I don't want them to hand me actual dollar denomination in my hand, so it was easier when we put a can there. But it was funny, and one of them was a $20 donation, so people are really quite supportive. Oh, that's it. So, in any case, there's a lot of ways to preach. It could be just handing out a leaflet on a corner. It could be a collegial, coordinated effort to do the same thing. It can be people coming to us online, and maybe us later today filling out, just writing a letter to these people saying, you know what, we sent you a book and we'd love to know how you're doing with it. Is there any questions that you have? Is there anything we can answer? People respond to that personal touch. So we're not giving you word processors to do it, just a pen and a paper. But you can either take it home, mail it yourself. We can give you an envelope and stamp even if you want. Just send these to people. You give them your own return address if you like. All we want to do is reach people. We want to give them that message of hope and share that with them. So that's where Carelinks Canada is with the foundation that Steve and Connie started. Ann and I were able to build on that. And we're happy to be able to do it, happy to work in the vineyard. We've also had good support from Rick and Eunice Hill, who have been very helpful to us in encouraging us along the way and to help us in our application for the Canada Revenue Agency. So things are going in the right direction, and we pray that it will continue to do so with your support. Any other questions? I covered it almost perfectly. Yes?
Do you distribute Bibles here in Canada as well, like North Canada?
You mean the territories?
Well, yeah, in some of the isolated areas.
I've sent some to, that were on reserves. I only was able to think that's true because of the names of the address, and the name sounded very native Canadian. But I wouldn't say not very many. Most of them seem to be in established cities throughout Canada. We do if they request them, we just don't get a lot of requests from that. But with the internet, one of the beauties of the internet, it's far-reaching. It can reach places that never used to get any access to people, otherwise to people. So we do as much as we can, but I would say not very successfully up to this point.
I think about the experiences that they've had with the Catholic Church, and whether that has deterred them from speaking the truth.
I think something that happens with a lot of people is that they get burnt by a religion, and they get angry with God. And I really think it's sad in a way because, your faith and your religion aren't exactly the same. Your faith is your personal relationship with you and the Lord. Your religion is the support group that you associate with to help them and for them to help you, so that you collectively build each other up. You help each other through a very difficult path. And so, unfortunately, sometimes when that support group fails people don't see the difference, and they get angry with God, and they feel God has let them down, and then they are hard to reach, just as you're saying. The Catholic Church has hurt people in many ways because of such things that have happened. Sometimes, though, I have found that when you find someone who is reaching us online, a lot of times they write a letter to you, and they tell you that history. And that's usually what I try to explain to them. I say, don't see the failure of a group of people as the failure of God. Sort of separate that and still pursue that personal relationship that you originally wanted. And I have found several people to see that almost cathartically as a relief, because they were confused. They didn't want to be angry with God, but they didn't know how to sort that out. So I've tried to do that on sometimes, and I think it has been helpful to a few people that I've spoke to. And there's a few in Quebec, actually, ironically, both in Montreal, that I've been trying to have a meetup with them to have further discussions with them, but I haven't been able to bring it together yet.
Are there any Bibles in the Native American language?
Like what? I don't know. I would say no, not that I know of. I don't think there's many Native Americans that don't know English, though. Only because of functionality within a society, they almost need to know English. Are we good? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your kind attention and your support.